Our next guest really doesn't have much of an introduction. We just need somebody to moderate the debate. He actually is, I think, maybe the best political servant this Commonwealth has ever seen. Three-term governor, Democratic nominee for president in 1988. A great friend and somebody who is, I think, a major factor in why a lot of people like this got into politics. It's my honor to introduce the moderator of today's debate, Governor Michael Dukakis.
Thank you very much. I don't know what happened to the hordes that we expected here, but maybe we're just overdosing on professional sports or something. But it's great to be here, and I've been here, as many of you know, for more than 20 years teaching. It's one of the best decisions I ever made. I'm a huge fan of this place. I love the co-op program. A few of my students are here. Thank you guys for joining us. And why more schools don't adopt the co-op program is beyond me. We had 50,000 applications for admission to the freshman class this past year for 3,000 spots, and next year it'll be 60,000. So it's a great way to both provide a terrific education for our young people, at the same time give them the kind of experience that you guys have been having. And I want to tell you, these are life-transforming experiences. So it's good to be here, and good to be joined by, if I may say, one of the best fields of candidates I've ever seen in this city. And it's a credit to all of you folks, and to the folks that started this process in the primary. I don't want to put too fine a point on it. Jeff said, you want me to tell them that it's going to be your 80th birthday on the 3rd of November. I said, no, I'm already overdosing on birthday cakes. But I was around when a guy named Curley, an interesting guy to be sure, was elected from jail to be mayor of Boston. And not only that, but my beloved father-in-law, who many of you know, is the associate back with Boston Pops, used to love to tell a story about Curley. One of his kids was to be married, and he had a reception at the house in Jamaica on the Riverway with the shamrocks and the shutters. And he got a hold of Arthur Fiedler and said, can you put together a small chamber? I think it was a quartet, a string quartet. So Fiedler said to his associate conductor, who's my father-in-law, Harry Dixon, Harry, it's a good job for you. Get 3 other string players and put them together and go up there and play it. I think we called them the governors, even though he's mayor. He's been governor for a couple of years. And they did, and then he sent a bill, no payment. Sent another bill, no payment. Sent another bill, no payment. And these little jobs were very important in those days. And he finally went to Fiedler and said, what do I do? And Fiedler said, walk up to the house, knock on the door, and ask for your money. So he did, and the mayor was there. Curley was there. So, what do you want? Harry pulled out a roll of a wad of cash that thick and peeled off the money he gave him and said, here, it's all yours. Harry loved to tell this story. Anyway, politics have changed considerably. We got a great lineup here, and I think I know all of you. Jeff Ross, thank you for joining us. Karen, hold on. My memory's good. Karen Cass is sitting in for Marty Keogh, who's had some tough things happening in his family this past week and so forth. Karen, thank you for joining us. Steve Murphy, thank you. Longtime member of the council. Jack Kelly, where are you? Right here. Anissa Saibi George. Anissa, welcome. Leanna Presley, president of the council these days. And Michelle Wu. And here's the format, folks. We're going to have 4 students, 2 from Northeastern, 2 from Boston, who are award fellows of Boston Latin, asking a question each to each of you. Quick, 60-second answers, please. I know that's tough, but try to keep it as brief and as punchy as you possibly can. Then they'll have a second round. Joan and I are going to ask you a question. Don't be surprised if it has something to do with public transportation. And we're going to wrap it up. And then we're going to be fortunate to have the two barrel cannons coming in. There's not going to be a debate. This is not a debate, but each of them is going to join us for a few minutes and then for a few questions. Make sense? Okay, where are our questions?
Hello, I'm Daniel Morrissey, and I'm a Northeast University junior and an outside owner. Boston recently unveiled a 35-year bicycle infrastructure plan. However, younger generations are currently forgoing the automobile in favor of walking, transit, and bicycling, establishing a new norm. What can you do?
Am I getting deaf or am I having a problem? You guys understand this? I better have my hearing. Slow it down a little more distinct.
Okay.
Okay? At least for the old guy here. I don't know about the rest.
Boston recently unveiled a 35-year bicycle infrastructure plan. Younger generations, however, are currently forgoing the automobile in favor of walking, transit, and bicycling, establishing a new norm. What can you do to improve bicycle safety and decrease transportation inequality through bicycle infrastructure? Should the current 35-year plan really be 35 years?
Why don't we start over there, Jeff?
We have 60 seconds.
Huh? 60 seconds.
Thank you, Dan, for your question. I came actually to Northeastern University for law school, so it's great to be back with my alma mater and go Huskies. I think that actually part of my platform has been talking about partnering development with transportation infrastructure so that we can create accessibility, affordable markets, and healthy food in every neighborhood. I'd like to see us really look at the safety issues around bicycling. I am an avid bicycler myself. We have a $100 million capital improvement budget. I would like to see some of that directed, maybe improving bike paths along the Emerald Necklace and looking for alternative bicycle transportation issues. Sorry, 15-minute sign went up. 15-second sign went up. So I think we need to look at routing bicycle paths in areas where there are lower traffic turnouts. I'd also like to see more partnership with the Registry of Motor Vehicles when we're teaching folks about driving and raise awareness about bicycle safety through that. Thank you.
Karen.
Well, you'll have to pretend my voice is a little bit deeper and that I'm Marty. But I think that there's a lot of agreement by many of the candidates on actually making it more comprehensive for every type of transportation in the city. Because I think that there is a lot of consternation on the part of both bicyclists and drivers and walkers because of the fact that there isn't a clear set of pathways that are really comprehensively safe for everybody. So I do believe that building into the 35-year plan, we need to think about the safety of everybody involved. And we need to also remember that there are a lot of good plans out there already, and that we should incorporate them and by involving the community as to what the safest plan would be.
Steve, let me just toss a quick thing in here. I'm concerned about the bicyclists and their conduct, if I may say. The other day, one went right through a red light as he was walking over to Northeastern from Brookline, and I pointed out to him that the red light was for him, and I won't repeat what he said he was in polite company, but it was not exactly him. We used to, in some communities, have license plates, registrations on. As you answer this, and I'm sorry to take any more time, we haven't had too much. How do we deal with the cyclists themselves? The things we got to be doing to make sure that they are observing the rules of the road. Sorry.
Well, Governor, thanks, and thank you for your question. One of the reasons that it was the mayor and the city council that jointly put forward to reduce the carbon footprint of the city, the increased bicycle use and some bicycling alleys, I guess you will, or bicycle ways along the public ways. But public safety, as the governor said, is the key component to that, keeping pedestrians, bicyclists, and motor vehicle drivers safe. And that all starts with education. And that's why there's kind of such a long rollout on this thing, because we've got to educate everybody, including bicyclists. And, you know, I walk outside of City Hall from time to time, and they go right through the light, red light there. They go up on the sidewalk. They go down the other side. They go on against traffic on the opposite side of the street. So there's a big education component to try to keep everybody safe. But the goal is a noble one, and we're working on it through the Indigo line in Fairmount with transit-oriented development as well, trying to get more cars off of the roads.
Denise?
So one of the things I think is most important when we discuss bike transit in the city of Boston is streamlining and uniforming all of the markings for bike lanes, because right now we've got, I think it's 3 different indicators that bikes can travel here. So whether it's with traffic, whether it's on its own in a bike lane, or whether it's on its own in a painted bike lane. And I think one of the issues that we face as a city, especially with the influx of new students every year in September, is the missing education piece. So 2 things need to be happening, I think, within the city to help bicyclists. 1, we need to streamline what we're using for markings, and 2, we need to make sure that our students are educated both on bike markings and using a bike safely, as well as helmet use. As a parent of 4 young children, helmets are a must, and I think that they should be for our college student bikers as well.
Michelle?
I would say that there are some major infrastructure investments that the city needs to keep making around really changing the markings, making them clear in certain intersections, redoing them in certain intersections that are especially dangerous as identified by cyclists and by drivers. Cycle tracks that would completely separate off the bike lane as we're redeveloping certain intersections. And on the cultural piece, I agree that it starts with youth and it starts with students. I would love to see some sort of maybe certification program where kids can show that they understand all the rules, and then on the adult side, actually enforcing many of those rules at those problem intersections, as the city has started to do. I also would love to see the city really celebrate cycling overall. The Hubway program has been great, but it needs to be expanded out into more of the outer neighborhoods, and I'd love to see helmets paired with that, and all other initiatives like the Circle the City initiative, where certain streets are just shut down to all car traffic so that pedestrians and cyclists can come out and enjoy the whole street, I think are great things to expand.
Thanks, Jack.
Hi, my name is Jack Kelly, and I worked for the mayor for 5.5 years, and one of the things that I helped initiate, or not initiate, but implement, was the first bike lanes in the neighborhood that I was representing, which was Charlestown. So I've been sort of on the ground up when this has been coming to fruition as a city, and I am a huge proponent of anything that is going to reduce our carbon footprint, and I'm in favor of all policies that are environmentally friendly and sensitive. I would add, though, I think that we need to look at more intelligent ways to do this. I am a proponent of segregated bike lanes. I think that we really want to do this correctly, and we really want to separate motorists and bikes and increase safety for both people who take cars and people who are on bicycles, that we have different lanes. Now, we can't do that in every part of the city, but I think we have to start looking at it in the 30-year plan, and there's ways to do it. I mean, you guys have a great engineering program here. Maybe we can hire some people from Northeastern, some students when they graduate, to focus on something like this. I think it's a huge thing, and I just want to be very clear about this. Any policy that we develop cannot pit groups of people against each other. I think if you look at history, every time that happens, it's a failed solution. Okay, so what I see now is people who drive cars and people who drive bikes, they hate each other. That's crazy. This is not a civil rights issue here. It's just a way to have effective transportation. We need to calm down the rhetoric on both sides.
Yeah.
Well, as we move towards increased density, certainly what makes the city more livable and what makes it a gateway city is the ability of everyone to navigate it, and to navigate it safely. We often talk about cycling just in the vein of only students or recreation, but there are people who are bicycling because they are commuting, or who bicycle as a matter of their livelihood. And so it is important that we're thoughtful about those investments in infrastructure. And that is why, in the wake of a number of high-profile bicyclist and motor vehicle collisions, I reached out to the Boston Cyclists Union to ask them why was this happening. The cycling community is a very close-knit community. They share a lot of information. And he said, because we don't have any data. And so I held a public hearing, which ultimately led to a comprehensive crash data report. And that is going to give us a roadmap to directly inform where we make those financial investments in dedicated bike lanes and cycle tracks to ensure the safety of everyone. Because we really have got to find a way to coexist on these roadways. This is a matter of public health and public safety.
Okay, Dan, do you have a second one?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll go to the next question.
So my second question is transit related. I and thousands of other students rely on the MTA to move around the city. The MTA Rider Oversight Committee recently released a study suggesting that universities provide adequate funding for the MTA in return for students to really ride the MTA and related service similar to Chicago's successful UPass program. Considering the MTA's current financial difficulties and safety concerns with lack of late service, how can you use your influence in the city in order to get this done?
I think that we could actually encourage the universities to have every student who is studying here in Boston have part of their curriculum and part of the package that they have as student a pass, and encourage more of our students to use the MTA. I think that it would both help with some of the resources that the MTA is shortfalling on when we look at the infrastructure improvements and the cost of that. I'd like to see the MTA more affordable for students that need to get around our city and for some of our senior citizens. I think that the fare inequities really talk to certain issues in the city of Boston around affordability, and that we need to make sure that everyone can get around the city as adequately as possible, but that we really need to look at the seniors who can't afford to pay high fares and some of the students who can't. So that's one of my proposals.
I think this is actually a question that Steve and Diana have been dealing with for a while as the state. I think we have the same problem in the Boston public schools for our students, even though we have student passes. And I think that we need to incorporate a similar type of program at the college level that will address making either part of tuition that you pay give you a bus pass or a T-pass like the schools, the high schools do right now. And I don't have the magic bullet answer for how we'll come up with that funding, because of course nobody wants to hear ever raise taxes or do this or do that. And it is actually something that the State House has to address more than the City Council. But the City Councilors have a lot of pull at the State House level and should be lobbying on behalf of students to do so.
Dan, the first way to get some action on a problem is to tell people about it, and this is the first I've actually heard about it. The City of Boston contributes to the MBTA's budget. I would, obviously, it's an essential problem for the people who it confronts, and I would use the power of my office and the power of holding a hearing to shine a light on it at that level, and encourage our friends at the State House who share local aid with us or are good to us on local aid to get involved in the discussion so that we could work out a formula that's more equitable for students and makes it easier for them and cheaper for them to get around.
Thank you. The T is an incredible resource, not just for the residents and workers in Boston, but obviously for the college students, otherwise we wouldn't bring that question up. I think that it's important for us as city councilors, and those of us once elected, to reach out and develop some strong partnerships with our state legislators, those up at the State House, and make sure that we are working together to make sure that we solve this transportation issue. Because it's not just an access issue, but a quality of service issue. We need to make sure that throughout all of our neighborhoods, both the downtown Boston, downtown neighborhoods, and our outskirts, that we are providing high quality service and that we're meeting the demands of the users, because that in turn will create more users and a more efficient system. I think that's important for city councilors to really work hand in hand with our delegation at the State House.
Michelle.
Thank you for that question. It is something, as Anissa said, that has far-ranging impacts, not just on students and the reputation of our city as somewhere that's fun and hip to live, but also very serious economic impacts for people choosing whether or not to take late night shifts and being able to get to and from their jobs in the city. So, it is a state issue. It is a state funding issue. I do believe that city officials have a role in advocating for and pushing for more funding and for those investments to be made where they're most needed. In the meantime, I do think that the city council could have a role in offering suggestions of how to improve the infrastructure that we have now, even as we're talking about long-term investments. So could we restore some late-night bus service in certain areas as identified by universities and other businesses? Could we think about signal prioritization to really speed up transit during rush hours? I think there are if we could really convene all of the stakeholders in one setting, I think there are some creative solutions that we can push for.
Jack?
As everybody's mentioned, this is a very convoluted issue because we don't have direct control over it, but one of the things let me just generally speak about the T and transportation in general going forward. We have a congestion problem, whether you use a car or you use the T. At high traffic times, it's congestion everywhere. 93, or you're on the orange line and red line. Anytime the majority of people are going to work or trying to do things for their life, there's congestion all over the place. And we need to make the T much more user-friendly. If you look at other places in the country, and actually in some parts of the world, the T is actually, not the T, but their public transportation system is an enjoyable experience. It's Wi-Fi ready. As a consumer, people actually want to use it. And I think, again, sort of the point I made before, we have to get out of this forceful nature of government and want to attract people to use it. And if we do that, then sometimes maybe the cost, even if we have to raise something by 15 cents, people will be willing to do it because it's a much more enjoyable experience. People take their car because it's an enjoyable thing to go to work or to do whatever they're doing. And I think we need to make the T as enjoyable as well. And then once we do that, maybe we can help bridge some of the costs associated with it.
Well, first I would say I see transit as really the intersect for everything. It's a social justice issue. It's an equity issue. It's a livable city issue. We can create more affordable housing, which I know we're all committed to. We can create more jobs, which we're all committed to, certainly to keep you here. But if you can't get to them, it doesn't matter. And so if you don't have an experience where it is easy for you to navigate this city, if we increase safety safeguards, then we'll see an increase in bike ridership. If T-service is affordable and is reliable and is enjoyable, then we'll increase ridership in that way and meet that demand. I should add, I don't own a car, and so I take the red line regularly to City Hall, Governor, modeling myself after you, and find that too often it does turn into office hours for me. But I enjoy it. Yes.
You learn a lot.
But I do also just want to say, we talk a lot about brain drain. A key component for me in keeping you here is connecting you to the city outside of your campuses, which have become micro cities. And so that's why the transit piece is so very important. Thank you.
I must say, I learned more about my own administration while riding the teeth. I didn't say this. Hey, Governor, talk to you. Michael Flaherty, thank you for joining us. Great to have you with us. Dan, is that it on your score? I think we've got...
Candidate Flaherty will also answer the questions.
Okay, terrific. Great. Mike, go ahead. Mike, did you hear the question?
I did not, Governor. Can you repeat the question?
Dan, one more time.
Hello, my name is David Morrissey. I and thousands of other students rely on the MTA to move around the city. The MTA Rider Oversight Committee recently released a study suggesting that the universities provide adequate funding to the MTA in return for students to freely ride the T and limited service. Considering the MTA's current financial difficulties and safety concerns with lack of limited service, how can you use your influence in order to get this done?
Clearly, I happen to think it is a city issue, just given that Boston is the hub, and I feel that we set the tone by our actions. I feel that we've had a stranglehold in Boston on our nightlife, and particularly we've abandoned our third shift workers, those that work in healthcare, and students who may be working a shift downtown at an establishment trying to get back to their college campus. So I think that the city can and must do more. Led efforts on the city council, supported along with Councilor Murphy, our colleague, Councilor Michael Ross, with respect to the night owl service, which I thought was a very positive and effective way to address this concern, but yet obviously the MBTA walked away from it. So I think that we need to set the tone as a city. We need to move the city forward with respect to our nightlife, keeping health clubs and cafes open later. That in itself will set the tone and force, I believe, the MBTA to take a look at how they can better service this city, clearly moving service into the later hours is more than appropriate, given again that we're a college town and a third of our population in their 20s and 30s.
You know, there are cities, and I teach at a university in the wintertime out on the West Coast, where a modest increase in fees pays for transit for faculty, staff, and students. And it works extremely well, folks. Something we want to think about. Whether or not all the colleges and universities should, just a very modest increase in fees would make it possible for us to do a lot of this kind of stuff. So it's something to think about. Dan, thank you very much.
Thank you for your answers.
Okay.